Parkour! Oh... shit. Yo, what is up guys, it's the Tyrannic Swine here and welcome to another game review. This time I'm reviewing Mirror's Edge, a first-person parkour type game made by DICE and published by EA, which is kind of strange since they usually do first-person shooters, but this is back in the days before they were corrupt arseholes. Now, Mirror's Edge is set in a dystopian type future. A group of people known as the Runners, which includes the main character Faith Connors, deliver messages to each other while avoiding the government. One day a political figure is found murdered and Faith's sister Kate is blamed for being the murderer, and Faith must go on the journey to find out who the true murderer is and clear her sister's name. Now, this is an interesting concept for a story, but this game isn't all that long. It's about, depending on your skill set, since this is parkour, for me it took about 5 hours to complete the game, and it's only 9 chapters, so there isn't really much space for a compelling story, but it was an interesting story nonetheless. Apart from the ending, which felt like it doesn't really explain anything, and it just felt like the game just ends, which kind of sucked, but overall I'd say the story was okay, up until the end, but when it comes to the characters of the game, there's not very many. There's Faith herself, who is the main character and pretty much the best character of the game, and then there's a few other side characters who could have been interesting if this game was longer and had a bit more backstory on them, but they felt kind of wasted in the end, even though they would have been pretty cool to get to know. But other than that, I'd say Faith is pretty much is a good character overall. Hell, she's actually a pretty decent female character protagonist compared to some of the others that I've seen, with her pretty cool rebellious tomboy type nature, which was actually quite interesting. But Faith is practically the only character who's likable in this game, although the others you kind of forget. So overall I'd say the story and the characters were decent, but it could have been done better if the game was longer. Now, this game does revolve a lot around parkour mechanics, and for a game that revolves a lot around parkour, it's done particularly well. I do like the way they've actually done it, even though at times it can be quite difficult to press the buttons correctly. When you get used to the game, it goes around pretty damn smoothly, does the parkour mechanics. So, like for example, when I was trying to do the wall climb, I was really bad at it at first, but eventually I got used to it and was able to do it very easily. Now, not only is there the parkour mechanics themselves, which I'd say are done particularly well, there is also a combat mechanics too, where you fight enemies. Now, there's not a lot of variation to attacking your enemies apart from like just sliding around and punching them. There's not really that much, but honestly, it's the best you can get from a game that centers mostly on parkour and not combat. But if you're in a tight situation, you can pick up a gun and kill them. But that's only if you're in a tight situation. So yeah, I think the parkour mechanics have been done pretty damn well. And not only that, the level design is done very well too. I love the way that the game, like the levels, the world looks all clean and nice, but it hides the disguise that it's actually a really shitty place to live in. I really like it when games do that. They like show a nice looking place to live, but really you don't want to be there. And I like the way the levels are designed too. Like you have your multiple big areas where you jump around and stuff, trying to look for a button or something, and then you have those intersections where you have to climb for a vent or something. I do like the way the levels were designed, and also the cutscenes I liked as well. They're done in a much different way compared to a lot of cutscenes that you see a lot of these days. These cutscenes felt pretty unique as they looked hand drawn, like a bit kind of sort of anime style, but isn't really anime. I really liked the way they did that, and it was really cool. So overall, I'd say the parkour mechanics, the level design, and hell, even the cutscenes, I'd say they were all done pretty well, and it was really enjoyable. So yeah, Also, if you are stuck and are trying to find a way to go around, just look for an object that's red like here, and it will show you that's the way to go. So in case you're lost, just make sure you look for something red. Now, since I said before, since there are combat mechanics, there are enemies to face. There isn't really that many enemies to face in this game, but since it's a parkour game, you'd be surprised if there's enemies to face at all. There is your usual police forces, along with your heavily armored SWAT forces too, which can be a pain to fight at times, especially when they have LMGs who will just cut you down in seconds. But there's also a few other enemy types, as snipers, which are a pain to deal with at range, and there's even these runner units that police members that are made to chase you down relentlessly. They can be a pain in the ass to fight, but surprisingly enough, these enemies can be easy to fight when you know the fighting mechanics. Usually what I did was just disarm them, but that can be a very risky, excuse me, that can be a very risky choice to do. So what I just basically did was just slide around and then hit them in the groin, which always works in the end, and then you just whack the shit out of them. So the enemies can be quite formidable, but luckily they don't send that many against you. The most they'll send against you in a big open area is about 6 to 8. And there is also a few moments in time where there's bosses to fight. And now I'm going to say there's probably really only one of them is a boss. The others are more or less just like press a button and then you survive. So really the game only has one true boss, and honestly it's not all that difficult as long as you evade their attacks, just like the other dudes. It's just basically like the other dudes, but they're stronger. Now, there is also not just a campaign mode, there is also a time trial area too, which is basically for people who like speedrunning can do that. It's basically complete a map in a certain amount of time. And this is very good for when you're training for the game too. If you don't know how the campaign, if you're decent enough at the campaign, you can go on the time trials to practice your skills without risk the consequences of the campaign. And it's a good area to get used to the game's mechanics and everything. But it's also there for if you've actually done the campaign, because the time trial section can be good for if you're trying to speedrun a campaign, since there is like an achievement for completing each mission below 8 minutes. So the time trial is a very good section for practicing your skills, so you can do that. So that's pretty much about it for Mirror's Edge. Overall, I'd say for a game of its type being based around parkour mechanics, it was done pretty well. It had an interesting story, which even though it did fall pretty hard at the end, since it doesn't really offer much, but I really like the way the levels were done. I like how whenever a lot of actions type of situations kicked in, it was actually a really thrilling game to play, even though at times this game can be quite challenging and quite annoying depending on where you have to go. And it's kind of annoying where you need to go isn't sometimes shown, but then when you look it up, you realize it was right next to you, and that can be quite annoying. But overall, Mirror's Edge was a fun, short game to play, and I will give it a 7 out of 10. So, that is my review of Mirror's Edge, a nice, short, parkour type game that, even though it came up a little bit short in the story, it was actually a nice bit of fun. So, hope you have enjoyed this review. Leave a like down below, comment what you like or don't like about the game that I might have missed. Subscribe, and I shall see you guys in the next random video.